Hello, 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 everyone. Mike Arnold back again one more time today. How is everyone doing? Hope that people didn't get chopped up with the little back and forth day today. Let's see who's here. Hello, Davy. Hello, Jacob. Yellow. What does yellow mean? Does that mean like a pause? That means caution? What does that mean? Sort of a yellow day because it's not a green day or really a red day. It's sort of a mixed day. Is that a yellow day? I don't know. How do I short HKD? Uh, well, you wouldn't have wanted to short it in the last session, would you? That's why I don't address these plays. I mean, that's absolutely it's absurdity. It's these. We're back to when we're in gamble mode with stuff. It's gamble mode. That's why I'd rather trade sensibly. But I don't need to make 100% overnight because that's not sustainable. Again, let's see where we sit. Yeah, hey Josh, back and forth day for sure. Hello, Patrick. Topping candles, let's go, George. What are you shifting to bearish mode? Are you one of those bears? Don't be a bear. Come on. You know it always goes up. If it doesn't, it's just a temporary. It's people losing their mind for a quick day. Remember, we analyze both sides of the market so we can be informed traders and investors, not with blinders on both the upside and downside. And there are some topping patterns, so you get to take advantage of them when they're there, just like bottoming patterns. All right. And if you are new here and like to know what we do on a regular basis and learn some of the things we do, please do consider subscribing, ringing that bell, and hitting the like button. Please come back. Some of the longer term subscribers, please, I'm really asking genuinely to leave some more comments. We're trying to get that wider distribution, and it really does help. Hey, Connor. Hey, AB. Glad to have you back. Polar bear. Oh, George. Polar bear. Hey, well, we like all kinds of bears here. And we like bulls here. We just have to know when it's appropriate for each one. All right, S&P Global Manufacturing coming in just slightly below, but ISM, a slight beat. What was interesting is prices paid big drop. See, the market doesn't know how to handle this. All right, does that mean the Fed's gonna not raise as much because prices are coming in? New orders, though, big drop there. Employment still in contraction. So overall, this is a pretty mixed ISM report, and that's probably why you saw some overall. How do we interpret this one? Let's see what's tomorrow, though. Let's see what's tomorrow. Red Book and Minor. Evans, though, pay attention to see. He's normally dovish. Pay attention, though, if he starts stressing the people have misinterpreted the last meeting and Powell. If he starts stressing it too, it's people should start taking it more seriously. But we'll see what happens. Just be aware that's at 9 a.m. Jolt job openings very minor, and that's pretty much it. So tomorrow, tomorrow's a very quiet day. Your heat map, some mega cap pull back a little. Tesla neutral, Amazon up a little bit, Google, almost off 100 basis points, Microsoft almost off 100 basis points, oil dropping, and so your oil is down. Meta up a little bit. Pins actually up big after hours. Pins up. That was on the earnings. I didn't see the earnings, but I saw them gap up. I did not know if that was related to earnings or something else, but I know they had earnings afterwards. It's pretty much 70% still, 25 basis points, 30%, 50 basis points. We're going to keep an eye on that and how it evolves over the next month, and we're still right at neutral gamma territory, so that's not really important right now. That's for tomorrow. Where are my other ones? What happened to my other ones? There we go. Devon Energy leaked early, and they were a massive beat. Again, Pinterest, if somebody has those numbers, could you put it in? Also, I'm curious on Activision Blizzard. I did not have a chance to look at that. But overall, there wasn't a lot that I consider major market moving. I mean, something like pins up 20% after hours uh, is not going to really skyrocket the NASDAQ or anything else. Tomorrow, it's going to be Uber's always interesting. I've got thoughts on Uber, but I'm not going to get into that here. Marathon, that'll probably be another big beat. BP, probably another big beat, unless you really screwed something up. There is Ferrari tomorrow for Bob. So, you know what? Depending on what Ferrari does, you can give Bob a hard time. Sort of interesting. Ferrari sort of blew it in the this weekend's Formula One. Sort of blew it. Red Bull pulling it out, followed by Mercedes. So I don't know if anybody's a Formula One fan here. I've been a Formula One fan since I was a kid. I'm a racing fan overall. So that's where we sit, but not a ton of stuff that's really going to rock the market again tomorrow. I always like to hear what people think of, like what they're fans of and everything else. So let's just see where we sit before I get to there. Let me get to some more hellos. Hello, Eric. Waiting for Powell to hand me a set of horns. Well, that's fine. That's good. You know, once we get long-term bullish mode, there's nothing wrong with that set of horns. Good evening, Anissa. Bob Day tomorrow. Yes, Bob Day. Good evening, Christoph. So is Pelosi really going to go to Taiwan or not? And then what's the take on that too? So you see a little red day, S&P off 28 basis points. What was more interesting to me is we're starting to get this 4-hour double top. 4-hour double top could not get up to the first harmonic on this little key area. So this is where I really start watching for the rollover play potentially. It's got to trigger first. If it's going to go overnight, I need a 4-hour close below 4,097 unless we have major momentum, because we have the 4-hour rotation zone and the daily rotation zone at the bottom, actually. So what's interesting is if this does trigger and hits all three targets, it just takes us back to the daily rotation zone. So this is not a major topping pattern. This is a minor topping pattern so far. A minor topping pattern. Targets, right where that, remember I talked about that pausing area into that clear path. Look at the first target is right there. 4,072, 4,073 based off that clear path target. So there, we're sitting right there. Next target is virtually at that, back at the 75% harmonic. I just love this stuff. 40, 60, 40, 59, then 40, 46, 75. Again, takes you back to the daily rotation zone if that triggers. Daily at the top, not yet rolling over, coming out slightly of overbought conditions. Weekly at the top, not yet rolling over, just a pause. So does this mean we go hog wild and just start shorting randomly? No, we wait for a trigger, and then that's a short-term little top. Now remember, we can come back down, roll back up, and form some kind of longer-term top. All right, for all the massive bears, that's what you got to keep the moves in context. This is what I'm trying to explain to everybody. You have short term, you have medium term, you have long term things. This is a very short term thing, and it doesn't even have to trigger. So, hope Ferrari doesn't put hard tires on their stock. Did you watch the? Because the hard tires did not fare very well during yesterday's Formula One. Did you watch it, George? Wonder who was actually the 2-hour phone call was Z the other day. Biden can't stay awake that long. Let's hold a conversation. I sort of agree with that statement. I mean, I think they feed him enough pills to keep him coherent for short periods of time. Sorry, I'm not going to get political on this. But literally, can we stop electing people like literally in their 70s and 80s for office, public office? We can't find anything better on any side than these people like literally that should take a nap most of the day. That's my thoughts. NASDAQ, pretty much neutral day, doji day coming up, hitting remember that nice harmonic? Look at that nice harmonic. Didn't update that yet. Until we hit that harmonic, there's but you see running up there, I love harmonics. I really do. they're just fun things. Hitting that nicely, coming back down, right back to the key support level. There is no double on this. So again, it's a breakdown is pretty much what I discussed this morning. 12,838. We're sitting at minor support 12,930. Let's just see with the. Let me see where we sit. So the next level I'm just still using is this 13,200. On another push up would be 13,200. The interesting thing is if you do break below this level, watch that 4-hour rotation zone. It really needs to get a key close below that 4-hour rotation zone for me to get even more bearish into the clear path. And that would be back to about 12,600, 12,580. So that's where that stands. Cycles at the top and not yet rolling over on the NASDAQ on the daily and on the weekly. What does Nancy do? Does she visit, stay away? That's the question. They'll move the market either way. You know, it's going to be interesting because if she bails, I mean, that's, in my book, again, placating China to the nth degree if she bails. But if she goes, you know what? They're doing major saber rattling. So it'll get interesting either way. But we have to trade what the market does, not what we think. So Dow, sorry, I'm having some mouse problems today. I really need to get a more powerful computer. Dow, but they're on back order right now. 12.6. This is getting a little sloppier, but 12.6, the same thing as this morning. 12.4, I mean 12.6. 32.602 to be exact. 32.434, 32.348, 32.266. Remember, if you get another strong push up overnight, it could turn into a triple. So do keep that in mind. Next key level, remember, I'm still watching this 87.5 statistically, this 33,018. I'll be keying off of roughly 33,000. The Russell, you do have a double on here also. And the aggressive targets are lining up better also. So the key point on the Russell is below 1854.80. You have right at this breakout zone, first target about 1834, 1823, 1812. So that's where we stand. Sort of a, let's see, nice little pullback on the DAX. Watching right now, we could possibly get another push higher, especially with the 4-hour cycles getting to the bottom. Daily cycles at the top, but not yet rolling over, so I'm still really keying off. We're at this major topping area, but I'm still watching for the, excuse me, for that final target. And then if you're playing it longer term, like a little more upside beyond that, I'd be using your most recent swing harmonics. Not even, the reverse ones are too close. So your most recent swing harmonics. Again, why am I explaining what I'm doing to try to help people understand? And this would be the most recent swing harmonics because you're into this big topping area. So I'm watching the more minor harmonics up here, 13,364, 13,703, and that's only if it starts eking out above this 13,592. So those are my targets to the upside. The breakdown level is roughly about 13,400, 13,420. And then that actually just takes us back to the breakout zone at 13,350 and the bottom of the daily or the bottom of the 4-hour rotation zone and back to the 50, flattening out 50 and rising daily rotation zone. So keep that in mind. Notes, again, still edging higher. Notes, the 10-year notes, so yields still dropping on that, closing in on this 121.26 area. Cycle still at the top, so still watching for that pullback play, but this would just be trailing higher on short term or longer term, waiting for a nice pullback, and then another longer term re-entry going up. So nothing new there. Crude closed just below the 200, not yet below this 92.93 area. So again, reconfirming the already confirmed double top, but not triggered yet on a daily. And remember, I'm watching the trigger on the weekly. Cycles are still at the top on the daily, trying to roll over, but on the bottom on the weekly. So we have mixed cycle messages. That's why I'm being patient right now, and still buyers stepping in on these breaks below about this 93, 92, 90 area. There's nothing really but to sit on my hands from my perspective in crude and wait for better setups at this point. Natural gas, nice little bounce here. Let's see. Let me see one thing here. Nope, that does not qualify. So still watching. We don't have a great entry just yet on natural gas. So going to sit on hands on that. Gold, nothing great. Still watching for the pullback on that. Silver hitting that the bottom of the breakdown zone with these spike low areas and pausing right here with cycles at the top. Now I'm starting to really watch for this pullback play on silver with the first cross of the daily rotation zone and then a potential significant resumption of trend up. Okay, your major support back on silver is 1941. I don't even know if it's going to get all the way back there, but I'll be using these short-term harmonics to gauge that. Dollar index, again, another lower day bouncing off the 50 exponential in the prior breakout zone. There is now an aggressive buy on a daily close above today's high. And it has returned to the weekly rotation zone, the top of it. Could it still pull back more? Of course, but that's the only signal on an aggressive entry right now with daily cycles at the bottom. VIX, gap up, and just sort of running up to this. I was watching, remember this, the 23 area, just get into it, then backing off. So again, nothing major going on with the VIX. It looks like people were loading up a little on volatility and the return to the daily rotation zone. But now we have a really nice play. If we start getting above this 23.30 for a quick move, then I'll really start tipping to short-term bearish, especially with those double tops. Oh, great. It's back. Could somebody report the naked chat? Pelosi better go to a nice resort in Hawaii and make some more trades. Oh, thank you, Josh. Reported the spam. Thank you very much for whoever who does that, and Josh did it. Thank you so much for reporting it. I know it takes a couple extra clicks, but I really do appreciate it. It keeps this channel moving along smoother instead of me trying to do it while I'm running a live stream. Hey, Dr. M, how are you? I really appreciate that. US dollar, Japanese yen, continue. This is a substantial pullback here. What's interesting is your major support coming in at 130.50. That actually, and that's where I'm watching this key area for a bounce play, and then I'm watching for actually a potential major topping pattern in the yen for right now. Euro trying to get there, but I need a close above this 102.80 level, which we could not do. Hitting there and then backing off. That's still the only play I have to the upside. Until then, yes, it closed into the wicks, which is an aggressive entry. I'm playing this for a little more conservative entry. Because why? Because cycles are at the top on the daily. And getting closer to the top on the weekly. And just overhead in front of that is the weekly rotation zone. Bitcoin continuing its slight and slow pullback. So nothing new to report on there. Tesla, yeah, that run up, spiking above the 200, not quite to that 941 area, and then the pretty strong reversal. There wasn't a great topping pattern in there. It was just then the breakout down to play for the gap fill. But not much else to talk about. I'll be watching about this 887 tomorrow, get to there. Then potential pullback play, especially to about 866, and then a key close below that 836. But we could have the short-term top in place finally with the 4-hour cycles at the top, daily cycles getting to the top, and weekly cycles at the top. So going to keep a close eye on that. Would not be chasing it higher at this point. Thank you, Ted, for reporting it. Hey, Daniel. Thank you, Anissa, for reporting it. Really appreciate all of you. Thank you so much. Can you draw the trend line on the cues from the peak initiating point? Are you seeing 330s as the potential top of this current run? I can do that. The peak, well, all right, if you're going to start with this is a little trend line thing, this is the peak, and then you're going to draw to here. I'm just showing you. Now, you can always remove some of them because they're going to be out of play for a while. That's going to be your first one. This is how you get your cascading trend lines. That's going to be your second one. And then your third one is going to be, remember, defining point turns into initiating point. And that's right there. So it would be theoretically in front of there. Those are your cascading trend lines. Now, if it did continue higher, let me reverse this real quick on the cues. Let me just clean up my cue chart a bit from the longer term. If we did go higher, remember, you're at a major breakdown zone here. All right. Let's just take a look at something short term right here. You don't have a double right here. You do have a sloppy head and shoulders on here. So do keep that in mind. But easily on a breakdown, even below 312.60, your area besides the gap fill takes you back to this breakout zone. Right there. That's the bigger bearish play if you get below that 312. Now to the upside, let's take a look with this. We don't have, again, hopefully we'll get a pausing bar on the daily so we can update it to the upside. Right now I have to use this 4-hour pausing bar, and I would use the most recent harmonics because of where cycles are. So this helps fine-tune stuff now. This is how I like to fine-tune levels, and this is sometimes more than I get into on the channel. But if we did push higher, remember, we're not into any more of a clear path move here. We're not into anything else. We have this choppy area, and here's how I fine-tune things. And you can do this on any one of your markets. So I'm going to look at some key things. We have a key gap down open, right? Look where that falls with the harmonic. We got a declining trend line. So now with these 4-hour pauses, and if this does pull back tomorrow, it's virtually going to be the same level because this would turn into a daily pause. So here's your levels to the up, and here's how I like to fine tune things. And this isn't just for options 22. I hope anybody who wants to learn some of this more of the price action combined with harmonics, combined with just pure price action like trend lines and key levels. Is this a significant level? No, it looks more like a key level. It might be a minor significant area. Why might it be a significant area? Let me go over that, then I'll go over the whole thing. So, key close just slightly below it, another key close just below it, but then a close right on it. You got a test and a reject, and this gap open runs away. So this has some minor significance. It looks like dueling significant levels. And sometimes you get that. You get a significant cluster. And this more looks like a significant cluster right here, which you got them really close together. So, you know, this would give me a whole target zone area, 324 to about 325.20. We got a declining trend line. We have a harmonic projection off the most recent swing. And we have dueling significant levels. And you're into a huge prior consolidation area. So for the continued bull case, That would be a major target. A minor target would be 321.97, right ahead of that 322 number. And your major support, I showed you the shorter term chart, but your major support is coming back at this breakdown area. Let me just see if we can fine tune this off this higher time frame. And this looks a little better, like this level right here. Why do I like this level? A key close right here. Gap open, retest with the high. Gap open, key emotional close there. A little back and forth price action, but a gap open there, runaway, retest with that high, retest near that area, but I'm erring on the side of a little higher, and a close just above there with the rising rotation zone. So that would be a really great target for a pullback. And you can always fine tune it on the lower time frame a bit. But it's just in front of this spike high and this. So you could even come down 308.60 to about 309.16 would be my target area. My first target area on a little bigger pullback. So when I do more in-depth analysis that I don't necessarily go over on this channel as much because we spend literally all afternoon per thing. But if it's something I trade heavily or something you're going to trade every day, that's a great way to go through your analysis and look at various different things. And I like to find clusters. I like to find where there's a lot of key elements lining up. You know, and then if you want to even get a little more in depth, you can put on your medium term harmonics and see how that lines up. All right. Which were there, and then you can put on, and I'm not going to go through all this, but then you could put on your long-term harmonics, and you see if that helps refine things. And the only thing with the long-term harmonics is that reinforces this first target area, not the second one. The second one is based off the shorter-term plays. So that's the way, and if something doesn't line up or is just in the middle, you don't want 18 million lines in your chart, but that's where I like to say, okay, look, if we continue to push higher before we roll over, that would be a great thing. That would be a great target for me. Can I get some feedback to see if that makes some sense? Now, why I'm a little hesitant with the continued, at least the short-term bull move, is we are getting some divergences with short-term topping patterns in the Dow and the S&P. Do they have to trigger? No. So could we easily still climb a little higher with still keeping a potential divergence intact? Yes, because we don't have daily cycles rolling over yet, but I am in caution mode. Maybe that's what we meant by yellow mode. So, you know, this is where, you know, it's a stale red light. Or a stale green light, and it's like, I know this is going to start turning yellow, so I better be cautious and be prepared to break, because I'm pretty much, if I go through the intersection now, I will run a red light if it changes. So I better to be on caution mode to be prepared that if I need to break, I'm prepared for it. All right, Josh. Can you please check SoFi? Their report tomorrow looks like further breakdown or breakout play, potential double bottom forming on a weekly. Is anybody still here? I'm not seeing comments anymore. Yes, there is a potential double bottom on a weekly. That is a potential. Again, this is why you analyze everything. There you go, and it would be out of the way of the weekly rotation zone. Other than that, now if this comes back down, it's going to be so if they have bad earnings and you come back down to the this 525 area, even 5, I'd have to measure it out exactly, but down in this area, it's going to be a triple bottom. So that goes off the table. Does it have to trigger? No. Do I have any idea what they do with earnings? No. I'd have to also look at the options to see where they're trading. But your breakdown plays roughly at about 610. Your breakout plays roughly about 650. And even with earnings, could it still stay within this range? Yes. So it's, I mean, at this, since nothing's triggered yet, it's a gamble play going into earnings. from my perspective. I'm not in tune enough with whether they're going to post a beat or anything else. All right. But that's your bigger term play, Josh. I would not. Let's just see. You have weekly cycles at the top. You have daily cycles at the bottom and turning up. This is just a very mixed market going into earnings tomorrow. So unless you have some specific insight or play this company through a lot of earnings reports, uh, I mean, your last one was a beat and and then we got the little runaway move. But I think it would gap up above 8 on an earnings report, not without looking at the implied volatility put on. Look at the implied volatility of your at roughly your straddles, and see what the options market's pricing in for a percentage move. Then you can gauge it. I'd rather wait for earnings to come out and then watch for the play after earnings. All right, Jacob. Thank you. Thanks, Options 22. What does no more bear attack mean? I don't know what that means, was it? Just curious how you would analyze RKLB. Rocket Lab. This is where I wish we could have music. We could play Rocket Man, during this, or we could. How I would analyze RKLB. Besides, it still has no PE. Besides, it's come out of oversold and just bounced back to the weekly rotation zone. If we stay in La La Land, your upward target is just in front of 6. But weekly cycles at the top. Daily cycles getting to the top. Short-term little breakout play into this breakdown zone. There's no great bottoming formation. I mean, let's just see. See, this is a stock. How would I analyze it? I wouldn't be trading it at this moment. Because there's no great pattern. You have cycles at the top. It's already made its back run-up move to the 50-period exponential. It's trading right at a prior breakdown zone. So you have prior support broken, becoming resistance now. If it does break through there, you have choppy price action up until about 511. You're trading against the weekly rotation zone with cycles at the top and overbought. I'd be watching for a breakdown play, if anything. To the upside is limited, at least to the time being. They have earnings coming up on the 11th, so you still got, you could still see some upward price move into earnings unless you get the broad market rolling over. You don't have a P to E. People know how I feel about P to E's, especially in a non-growth environment right now, because then it's just a gambling risk to me. So really, this would not be a play to me, because if I have to struggle to find something, again, here's another key level. And so even on a breakdown play, your support's back at 441. So there's not, this is trying to squeeze water from a rock in my book. Yeah, you can get a little breakout play, you can get a little breakdown play. Your cycles are at the top though. I wouldn't, those are your levels if you have to play it. But when I look at something and I sit on it for more than even a couple minutes and nothing jumps out and I can't find a trade, I'd rather go to another market I can, because there are too many things to trade. That's why I also want to get through to people. There are too many things to trade, so don't get married to having to trade one thing. But those are your levels if you want to trade it. Let's just see where was that other harmonic sits with the weekly rotation. And that other, if it does have a power move to the upside, Your major target off this bottom, if it does have a major move, would be the weekly rotation zone, top of the weekly rotation zone in the 12.5% harmonic, 575. So there you go, Daniel. Sterling, the yields on the 10-year and 30 yield have triggered head and shoulder patterns on the daily charts. Is a 20 a double top instead? Head and shoulders do a spike high. I don't even think I have the 20-year yield listed in here, but I'll take a look. Maybe I do. Yeah, I do. Oh, look, I put it in there. There's no head and shoulders yet, but due to this spike high, it would be traded as a double. I mean, your conservative and aggressive targets are virtually going to be at the same. The conservative come to this breakdown or this prior breakout zone, but that's where you'd have to trade this. Doesn't look like it's triggered yet or right there on a yield basis. Let's see. 310.6, close 311, not triggered officially on a closing basis. So that would be your 20-year. And remember, these can take a while to unfold. And also remember, you'd be utilizing the stop above this 62.5 if you're gonna, which is on a yield closing basis back above about 3.6%, 3.558. So maybe 3.56, not 3.6, 3.56%. On your 30-year, you have, let's just see this on the weekly basis. That's a horribly sloppy topping pattern. That's the only problem, but you know, it will give you key levels. That's really ugly if you're trying to trade that as a head and shoulder with this ill-formed shoulder. But that's pushing it. I will map it out. To see where we sit. So there are your targets. 2.65, 2.54, 2.4 are your targets on there. The 10-year was the cleaner one. You can see that's the head and shoulder, which did trigger because we also triggered on the inverse on the actual notes itself. And your stop's a long way off from this, so keep that in mind. We probably will see a bounce with cycles at the bottom, but you know you're coming back into the neckline with the rising rotation zone, so I'd be watching for a rollover play. Do not be surprised that if yields shift to the upside. You're welcome, Josh. AB with XPEV. XPEV. Well, that double, I don't trade that regularly right now. That double is off the table. I really don't have a lot of stuff in this. I mean, technically, it closed below the 62.5 from this run up. So right there. So if statistically I'd favor, even on a rally, I'd be watching for the next rollover play to about 2018, which would be this key base there. So I'd be watching it for the short side. On any bounce, you have the daily rotation zone at 2668 for a rollover play. That's the only thing. Cycle's not yet at the top. Weekly, this is just caught in consolidation. Tried to get the breakout play, but then now rolling over. But you got a mismatch. Weekly cycles at the bottom. I don't have a lot in that one. Besides longer term, watching for the rollover play. Hello, Amadeus. No more bear market, huh? Was it? Okay. I don't have a bottoming pattern on XPEV. This, you had the bottoming pattern that broke out and then it was a failed double. So I don't have, I mean, the only thing is cycles are at the bottom, but there's no strong bottoming pattern here. Besides, you could get a little short-term pop. So there's nothing. I'm considering making a play on snow if it breaks above 160, 150-ish and targeting 167.70 to 174. Thoughts? Let's update this longer term. You got a little horizontal play. That actually could turn into a shake and bake pattern, actually. Let me just take off some of these other levels just to clean up the chart. You have, let's just see if there's somewhat minor significance at 158.36. And what were your targets? 167.70 through one. You're into a clear path move here. Your breakdown zone is sloppy. You had this little double that doesn't look like it was. Let's just see where that full targets were on that double. Let's even go from the aggressive point just to see. So the reason I put this up there is because it's, I mean, that I would have been out on the short term, but I wanted to see where that final target is. So if you're trying to play this again on a breakout play, Connor, 161.50, you could probably even get above, closer to above, closer if you're trying to get a little more above about one, right before 160 on a breakout play, especially if it closes above there. Conservative would be about 161.50 for your entry. A little more aggressive would be right in front of 160 and then holding it with a close. And my target then would be about 170.25, 170.50. Using the old double target with this breakdown zone right there, that would be my target. If it was going, and you might have actually a little shake and bake play. Why? Because it broke down from this horizontal channel and then it ran right back in. Looks like it's hitting the midpoint of that. So if it came out the other end, yeah, you could get a little trapped. The bears got trapped and had to cover going into this. But keep in mind, much above there, you're sitting back into major congestion. So I wouldn't push this really a lot higher than that. Personally. Again, you have to structure your own trade, but those are my thoughts. All right, you're only trading the 10-year yield right now? Good. I mean, yeah, generally what I do is if I'm trading a lot of stuff that are very similar, I pick the best setup. You know, I don't want to put like, it's even with the stuff, let's say we get like, let's say hypothetically we had 10 double bottoms in semiconductor stocks. Am I going to fill my whole portfolio up with 10 double bottoms? No, I'm going to pick the one or two strongest patterns. And those are the ones I'm going to trade because you literally can't trade everything. You're welcome, Sterling. You're welcome, Anissa. Amazon, time for puts. And I'm going to wrap it up. Amazon, time for puts. Running up nicely to that. You know, you got a really nice ledge here. Your front run pattern would be below about 135, 134.90. And then I'd really be paying attention to that 1 hour rotation zone. And based off the low back on the 29th, the low would be 132. So that could easily be front run. And as long as it closes down, you could hold it for the rollover play in my book, because the 4 hours pretty far off. The key level you're watching then to target the full gap. I would not ignore this 50% area with the rising rotation zone, at least to move down a stop. And then once you start getting the close below about 128.40, that could be the full play to the gap. I'd be moving back down a stop again at 125.60 if it was my personal play. You got 4 hour cycles at the top. If we get the market rolling over and trigger some of those doubles, you could see a partial fill. Daily cycles aren't there, but if it keeps hanging out up here, they will start getting to the top and rolling over. Weekly cycles at the top. So once that starts confirming the breakdown, I do like that for a play. It just hasn't triggered anything yet, and there's no great... I would not bother even try to trade this as any head and shoulder patterns. It's just really a horizontal support with major support coming in at this. The 134.90, 135 area. You're welcome, Connie. All right. With that, I think we got some good teaching moments in. Sort of how I analyzed the cues and how I drew all those levels. I hope that was helpful to people. You have a good evening too, Josh. Let's see, Sterling for the final comment tonight. For the newer folks here, I checked my trading journal for the last month. My win ratio is 80%, but my winners were smaller than losers, made money, but should have made more. Right stops and take profits. All right. So now you're going to be working on getting your reward to risk above 1-to-1 at least. That's a great win rate. So now you just want to up your winners a bit more and keep your losers small. But that's definitely headed in the right direction, Sterling. And that's a very good win ratio. Now you just have to let it, even if your win ratio drops a little bit, by letting stuff run in the profit direction a little more, and giving it a little more room to run, you might get a couple more stop outs. But when you do catch a runner, that's what's key, and that's going to make a lot of your trades. But that's really good, and I'm glad to see you're keeping a trading journal. Very helpful for any people or not. You're shortchanging yourself if you're not keeping a trading journal. You're welcome, Eric. You're welcome, Connor. If Pelosi goes to, it's all based off the what happens. So we'll just have to see. We haven't crashed yet. There's not been a crash. Will we crash again? There has not been a crash. During this whole unwind, there's nothing that was a crash. There have been substantial lower moves. There's been substantial higher moves. There's not been a crash. This is not a crash. This was not a crash. They were just a series of down days. Trust me, you'll know a crash. These were aggressive selling days, but not a crash. Oh, great. We're going to end it now. The chat bot is back. So we have not had a crash. Now, if something major happened, like they shot her out of the air, yeah, it could really rattle the markets, and you could see a major selling pressure, because the markets, in my book, are still very thin. We've had lower volume, and the depth is not there. So could you get a crash? Theoretically, we have not had a crash. All right. Going to wrap it up for now. Thank you, everybody. And I will talk to you later. Bye for now. Thank you, Anissa. Thank you for reporting it again. I really appreciate everybody who reports it. Bye.